The dinner table was quiet in a way that made my chest feel heavy. The soft sound of plates touching the table felt louder than it should. The lights above us looked warm, but the air between us felt cold. I sat across from my wife, watching her hands shake slightly. She avoided my eyes and kept staring at her food. I thought maybe she was tired or upset from work. I tried to smile and talk about normal things. I talked about traffic and bills and plans for the weekend. She did not respond the way she usually did. Her silence felt like a warning I did not understand yet. I felt something was wrong, but I was afraid to ask. My heart started beating faster without reason. The room felt smaller with every second. I remembered how we used to laugh at this same table. How dinners were once full of jokes and warmth. Tonight there was no laughter, only tension. She finally lifted her head and looked straight at me. Her eyes were empty, like she had already left. My stomach tightened before she even spoke. I knew whatever she was about to say would change everything. She took a deep breath like she was preparing for a storm. Then she said she was leaving me. The words hit me harder than any shout could. I felt frozen, unable to move or speak. My ears rang as if the world had gone silent. I searched her face, hoping it was a bad joke. But there was no joke, only distance. I asked her why in a shaking voice. She said she could not live this lie anymore. I did not understand what lie she meant. My mind raced through years of memories. Every sacrifice, every promise, every late night. I felt anger, confusion, and fear mixing together. I wanted answers, but she looked relieved, not sorry. Just as I tried to stand, the front door opened. Footsteps echoed through the room. A shadow crossed the doorway. And in that moment my wife stopped breathing. Her face lost all color. Her eyes locked on the person walking in. And I knew this night was far from over. The man who walked in was someone I never expected to see. He stood near the door like he owned the place. His confidence filled the room before his voice did. I recognized him from old photos and half-told stories. He was someone from my past, someone I trusted once. My wife stared at him like she had seen a ghost. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The silence between all three of us felt painful. I looked from her to him, trying to understand. My hands felt cold and weak at the same time. The man took a step forward without fear. He looked directly at my wife, not at me. His eyes held a secret that made my chest burn. I asked who he was and why he was here. My voice sounded strange even to my own ears. My wife still could not speak. Her body stiffened like she was caught. The man finally smiled, but there was no kindness in it. He said my name slowly, like he enjoyed it. That moment told me everything was planned. This was not a surprise to them, only to me. I felt anger rise, but confusion held me back. I demanded answers from both of them. The man said he came to tell the truth. Those words made my wife look smaller. She finally whispered his name. Hearing it confirmed my fear. He was the one she told me not to worry about. The one she said was just a friend. My heart felt heavy with betrayal. The dinner we shared now felt fake. Every smile from the past felt stolen. The man said they could not hide anymore. He said the lies were too heavy. My wife started crying quietly. Not for me, but for herself. That hurt more than the truth. I realized she had already chosen her side. I was just the last to know. The room felt dark even with the lights on. I stood there realizing my life was breaking. And this dinner was only the beginning. I stood there trying to breathe like a normal person. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to stay standing. I did not want them to see me break. The man moved closer, and the smell of his cologne filled the room. It felt wrong, like an invasion of my life. I asked him how long this had been happening. My voice was calm, but my heart was screaming. My wife looked down at the table, unable to face me. Her silence answered before words could. The man said it started slowly and then became serious. Each word felt like a knife cutting deeper. I thought about the nights she came home late. The messages she hid. The calls she took in another room. Everything made sense now. I felt foolish for trusting so easily. I remembered defending her to friends and family. I remembered believing every excuse. The man said they planned a future together. Hearing that made my vision blur. I realized I was already replaced. I was just part of the past she wanted to erase. My wife finally looked at me. Her eyes were full of fear, not love. She said she never wanted to hurt me. That sentence made me feel empty. If she did not want to hurt me, why did she lie? Why did she let me believe we were happy? I felt anger rise, but I kept control. I asked her if she loved him. She hesitated, and that hesitation destroyed me. I did not need the answer anymore. The truth was written all over her face. The man stood silently watching us, like he was waiting for permission. I felt disrespected in my own home. I realized I had lost more than a wife. I lost trust, dignity, and peace. That night changed how I saw love forever. I took a slow step back, trying to create space between us. The room felt crowded even though no one moved. I felt like a stranger in my own house. I looked at the walls and the photos we once took. Every memory now felt like a lie. I asked my wife if our marriage ever meant anything. She closed her eyes like she was tired of the truth. She said things changed and feelings faded. Those words hurt more than shouting ever could. I remembered the promises we made years ago, the future we talked about late at night, the dreams we shared when life felt simple. Now all of it felt meaningless. The man cleared his throat like he belonged there. That sound made my anger rise again. I asked him to leave my house. He looked at my wife before answering. That single look told me who had control. She nodded slowly and he stepped back. But the damage was already done. I felt humiliated and broken inside. My wife said she planned to leave tonight. She said dinner was supposed to be the end. Hearing that made my hands shake. This was planned while I believed everything was fine. I realized how deeply I was betrayed. I felt sadness but also clarity. I saw her clearly for the first time. Not as my wife, but as someone who chose to hurt me. I knew I could not beg or cry. I needed to protect what was left of me. I told her she could leave. My voice surprised even me. She looked shocked, like she expected a fight. The man waited near the door silently. My wife stood up slowly and grabbed her bag. She looked around the room one last time. I did not stop her. The door closed behind them, and the silence returned heavier than before. The silence after they left felt louder than their words. I stood alone in the dining room, not knowing what to do next. My body felt heavy, like I was carrying years of pain at once. I slowly sat down in the chair she had just left. The food on the table was still warm, but my heart felt cold. I stared at her empty plate, trying to understand everything. I thought about calling someone, but did not know who. Friends, family, none of them could fix this. I walked through the house, touching familiar things. The couch where we watched movies. The hallway where we laughed during silly fights. The bedroom that now felt like a stranger. I opened the closet and saw her clothes still hanging. That hurt more than I expected. I realized she left parts of herself behind. Or maybe she never fully belonged here anymore. I felt anger rise again, but it quickly turned into sadness. I sat on the bed and covered my face. Tears came without warning. I cried for the life I lost. I cried for the man I used to be. I wondered how long she had been unhappy, and why I was the last to know. I blamed myself for signs I ignored, for trusting without question, for loving without limits. But deep down I knew this was not my failure. She made choices without me. That night I did not sleep. I listened to every sound in the house, hoping she would return and say it was a mistake. But morning came with nothing. Just sunlight and reality. I realized my life had changed forever. Morning light filled the house, but it did not bring comfort. I sat at the table again, looking at the same chair she used. Everything felt slower, like time was punishing me. I made coffee but forgot to drink it. My mind replayed every word from the night before. I wondered where she woke up and if she felt free. That thought made my chest tighten. I told myself not to care, but it was impossible. Years of love do not disappear in one night. I checked my phone again and again. There were no messages, no apologies, no explanations. That silence told me more than words ever could. I decided to take a walk to clear my head. The street looked normal, like nothing had happened. People smiled, laughed, lived their lives. I felt invisible among them. I realized pain is lonely even in a crowd. As I walked, I remembered who I was before marriage. A man with goals, confidence, and peace. Somewhere along the way, I lost parts of myself. I let love become my whole identity. Now that it was gone, I felt empty. But inside that emptiness, I felt something else. A small spark of strength. I knew I could not stay broken forever. I promised myself I would survive this. Not for her, not for revenge, but for me. I turned back toward my house with heavy steps, but also with a quiet decision forming inside. This was not the end of my story. It was the beginning of something painful, but also something new. I spent the next few days moving like a shadow through my life. Work felt meaningless and nights felt endless. Every sound in the house reminded me of her absence. I stopped setting 2 cups for coffee without thinking. Small habits were the hardest to break. Friends called, but I did not answer. I did not want pity or questions. I needed silence to understand myself. One evening I sat alone watching old videos on my phone. There were moments where she smiled at me with love. I wondered when that smile became a lie. I deleted the videos one by one. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. Holding on was hurting me more. I realized healing sometimes means letting go. I began cleaning the house slowly. Each room felt lighter as I removed her things. It was painful but also freeing. I found letters she once wrote to me. Promises of forever and loyalty. I read them once and put them away. They belonged to a past that no longer existed. That night I slept better than before. Pain was still there, but it was quieter. I accepted that she chose another path. And I had to choose mine. I looked in the mirror and barely recognized myself. But for the first time I felt honesty in my eyes. I was broken but not defeated. I knew rebuilding would take time, but I was ready to begin. The days turned into weeks and life slowly started to move again. I returned to work with a focus I had lost long ago. Each morning I woke up and reminded myself to breathe. I no longer thought about her every moment. I still felt sadness, but it was quieter now. I started exercising to release the tension in my body. Running gave me a sense of control I had forgotten. I began reading books I once loved but had ignored. Words filled the empty spaces in my mind. I reconnected with friends who supported me silently. We talked, laughed, shared meals. I realized connection could heal more than time alone. One evening I met someone new at a cafe. Her smile was warm and her voice kind. I did not rush to anything but enjoyed the conversation. For the first time in months, I laughed without guilt. It felt strange but good. I realized life could be beautiful even after betrayal. I began writing again, my thoughts, my pain, my healing. Each word put a piece of my soul back together. I learned that endings are not always destruction. Sometimes they are the start of growth. I kept walking my path, slowly learning to trust myself. And even though I remembered her, I no longer needed her. I had found strength inside me that she could never take. Months passed and the house no longer felt empty. I filled it with small joys and routines that were mine. I planted flowers in the garden and watched them grow. Each bloom reminded me that life continues. I learned to cook meals just for myself and enjoyed them. I played music loudly and danced alone in the living room. I laughed at memories that used to hurt me. I traveled to new places even if only for a day. Each experience made me stronger and freer. I no longer feared being alone. I realized solitude could be peaceful. I started helping others who had been betrayed. Sharing my story gave them courage. I listened to them and offered comfort. It felt good to turn pain into purpose. I reconnected with my family who had noticed my sadness. We shared meals, played games, talked about life. I discovered that love still existed in the world. Not all love is romantic, but it heals in other ways. I went back to the restaurant where she left me. I sat alone and smiled at how far I had come. The memory still stung but no longer controlled me. I felt proud of surviving something so painful. I realized happiness was not given, it was created. Step by step, moment by moment, I rebuilt my life. And each day I became a better version of myself. Life kept moving and I kept growing in ways I never imagined. Every morning I woke up feeling lighter than the day before. I no longer feared silence or the empty spaces she left behind. I found joy in the little things like sunlight on my face or birds singing outside my window. I traveled more, exploring places I had always wanted to see. Mountains, beaches, forests all felt new and alive. I met new people and learned from their stories and struggles. I laughed freely without holding back like I had done when I was broken. I started writing a journal, capturing my journey of pain and healing. Each word felt like a release, lifting weight off my shoulders. I revisited friends I had ignored while my marriage consumed my life. We shared meals and long conversations until the night felt endless. I learned to forgive but not forget. Forgiveness was for me to release the anger and bitterness. I realized holding on to hate only chained me to the past. I began working on personal goals I had postponed for years. Fitness, education, creative projects all became a priority. I discovered talents I had ignored for too long. I even started dating casually, meeting people without expectation or pressure. I felt alive and free for the first time in years. Every day I grew stronger, wiser, and more confident. I knew I could face betrayal, heartbreak, or disappointment without losing myself. The nights were still quiet, sometimes lonely, but no longer painful. I embraced life fully, knowing happiness comes from within. I looked back at my past not with sorrow but with understanding. Each mistake, each hurt, each tear had shaped me into who I was today. I felt proud of the person I had become and excited for the future I was creating. And deep inside, I knew nothing could ever take my life or my spirit away again. I began to focus on building a future that was completely my own. I set goals I had dreamed of long ago but never pursued. I started saving money for trips, learning new skills, and investing in myself. Every small accomplishment gave me confidence and pride. I reconnected with old friends and made new ones who inspired me. I spent time volunteering, helping those who faced betrayal and loss. Sharing my story gave them hope and gave me purpose. I realized life was bigger than any single relationship or heartbreak. I took classes in photography and writing, capturing beauty in ordinary things. I traveled to places I never imagined visiting before. Each journey showed me the world was full of possibilities. I met people from different cultures and perspectives and learned from them. I learned patience, understanding, and resilience. I started dating again, carefully learning to trust slowly. Every laugh, every smile felt like a gift I could enjoy fully. I realized my heart was capable of love without dependence. I discovered joy in solitude, knowing it was a strength, not weakness. I reflected often on the night she left and the man who walked in. Those memories no longer hurt, they only reminded me of how far I had come. I built routines that supported my happiness and health. I learned to meditate and focus on the present moment. I practiced gratitude for the life I was creating for myself. Every morning I looked in the mirror and smiled at the person staring back. I knew I had survived betrayal, heartbreak, and loss. I had transformed pain into growth and weakness into strength. The house felt like home again, filled with laughter, music, and warmth. I felt proud of the person I had become and ready for whatever life brought next. By now, life had completely changed in ways I never expected. The pain of betrayal was still a part of me, but it no longer defined me. I woke up each morning with a sense of purpose and excitement. I pursued hobbies and passions that made me feel alive and creative. I traveled to new cities, met inspiring people, and tried new experiences. I reconnected with family and built stronger bonds than ever before. I learned to celebrate small victories and appreciate ordinary moments. I volunteered at local charities, sharing my story and encouraging others. I started attending social events, meeting people from all walks of life. I dated slowly, learning to trust and enjoy the moment without fear. I focused on my career, growing professionally and personally. Every challenge I faced now felt manageable because of what I had survived. I practiced self-love and mindfulness daily, strengthening my inner peace. I learned to let go of anger and resentment, freeing my heart completely. I documented my journey through writing, photography, and video, sharing it online. People reached out telling me I inspired them, giving me a sense of fulfillment. I realized that my life was no longer about her or him, but about me and my growth. I laughed more than I had in years, enjoying freedom and authenticity. I found love in friendship, community, and in myself. Even the nights when memories surfaced, I handled them calmly with understanding. I appreciated the lessons from my past betrayal, knowing they made me stronger. I built a life filled with purpose, adventure, and genuine happiness. I finally felt in control of my destiny and confident in my choices. I was no longer broken, I was complete in my own way. I embraced every moment knowing life could surprise me beautifully at any time. I realized that endings were often beginnings in disguise. I looked forward to the future without fear or regret. Life had become a story I was proud to tell. Every morning I woke up feeling alive and free. The pain of betrayal had faded into wisdom and strength. I traveled to new places, explored new cultures, and met incredible people. I laughed with friends old and new, sharing stories and creating memories. I embraced solitude as a gift, not a punishment. I pursued my passions with energy and focus, learning and growing every day. I started mentoring others who faced heartbreak, helping them find hope. I realized that life was not about what others took from me, but what I created for myself. I discovered joy in small things like a sunrise, a song, or a quiet moment of peace. I learned that love exists in many forms, in family, friends, community, and self. I met someone new who appreciated me for who I truly was and not for the past. We took things slowly, enjoying each moment without pressure or expectation. I finally felt safe trusting someone again because I trusted myself first. The house that once felt empty was now full of laughter, warmth, and love of all kinds. I remembered the night she left and the man who walked in, not with anger but clarity. That night had broken me, but it had also made me stronger and wiser. I realized that betrayal is not the end, but a test of resilience, courage, and self-worth. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and smiled at the person who survived everything. I knew that no heartbreak, no lie, no loss could ever take my spirit away again. I felt complete, fulfilled, and ready for every adventure life could bring. I embraced the unknown with excitement because I had learned to trust myself. I finally understood that happiness is not given, it is created by courage, choices, and love. And as the sun set on that chapter of my life, I stepped forward into the future. Confident, strong, free, and ready to live fully on my own terms.